Hey guys, I got another buyer's guide for you, and today we're doing something a little bit different. So about 15 years ago, the Marvel Cinematic Universe kicked off with the first Iron Man film, and I thought it would be a fun idea to do a buyer's guide based on just the suits and the characters that we see in the film. So with that in mind, we're going to be looking at each character as introduced in the film, and then we're going to look at how each character appears next to a screenshot that I'll take from the film. And then of course we'll be looking at the pricing and if it's really worth getting those figures or not. So sit back, relax, and we're gonna get right into it. And in our opening scenes, we see Tony Stark, as played by Robert Downey Jr. So this was part of a 2-pack that came out years ago that came out with the Mark 1. It's not a terrible likeness to Robert Downey Jr. I think the facial hair helps a lot since, you know, that's really an important part of Tony Stark's initial appearance. And this was at a time that they weren't really using face scans either. Now this is also a suited body, which at this point I think is kind of showing its age a bit. I think we do need an updated version of this if we don't already have one with a newer character. And we do have better versions of his face now. We also have this version. This one looks pretty much just spot on, just like him. And this one you can see is a different size head compared to the original one. So while you can make it fit on here, it looks kind of weird because of how much bigger the head is. Here's how he looks, kind of a big head on a small body. So if you really want to do it, you can, though I don't know if I would recommend doing that. And this Tony you can actually still get for retail, and actually it's under retail. It's actually, again, like I said, the 2-pack with the Mark 1. So I would recommend doing that instead of getting it on eBay, because you're still going to actually be paying about the same price on eBay for just him alone. But if you're going to pay the same, you may as well get both figures. The next character we actually see is James Rhodes, aka Rhodey. And while the first actual shot of him is very, very far away, and that is technically him, I'll go ahead and do the actual first shot where you can get a clear view of his face. And the thing is that we don't actually have a version of this actor, Terrence Howard, in Marvel Legends form. Now, as far as the actual character of James Rhodes, the closest we have so far is this particular head. We don't even have a full civilian head for him yet. We might get one later on when we get to the Armor Wars movie or show or whatever it is it's gonna end up being. Now, at least this likeness is actually a pretty good likeness to Don Cheadle. I think if we do get a civilian head of him later on, that would be really nice to have. But right now, if you're trying to get him, this is the best we got. Next time, baby. And after Rhodey, we have Obadiah Stane. So, spoiler alert, he is the bad guy of the movie. But what's cool is just how good his face looks. That looks spot on like Jeff Bridges. They did a fantastic job on this, which, to be fair, they were using the facial scanning technology that they use to print these really amazingly sculpted faces. But at the same time, we're still getting kind of the older suited body. And as far as accessories goes, he does have a briefcase, and it can open up, although there's nothing inside, but it is stamped closed, which is neat. And then he also comes with the arc reactor that Tony makes in the first film to save his life, which is a really, really cool accessory to have. Now, Obadiah by himself is 15 to 25 bucks on eBay. However, you can actually still get him as part of the 2-pack with Ironmonger for about retail. So depending on what your goals are, I would say probably just get the 2-pack. But I guess it also kind of depends on how much you can get both of them individually for. And next up is Happy Hogan. And if you don't know, Happy Hogan is played by Jon Favreau, who is in fact also the director of the first and second Iron Man films, as well as I think a producer on several different MCU things and a whole bunch more stuff. What's interesting about this body is that this is actually the first time we got this particular suited body, because this one's actually bigger than our first one because the character himself is kind of a bigger guy. And I think they did a pretty good job replicating that here. Now, what is kind of nice too is that this body actually, I think, fits the Tony Stark head a lot better. Here's how he would look. Although he still looks like he's not as thin as he should, but it does look much better than the original one. Now, this figure comes with a single accessory of a cell phone. I'm trying to get as close as I can, but even in real life, that text is not visible to me. And otherwise, he was part of a 2-pack with, I think, the Midas armor. You can find that for about $27 on Amazon. Otherwise, if you want Happy by himself, he is also around $27 on eBay. So I would recommend getting the 2-pack. Now, for the first appearance of Pepper Potts, we don't actually have a proper Iron Man 1 Pepper Potts release. The closest we have is the 3-pack that came with the Mandarin and another Iron Man suit. So this one is technically from Iron Man 3. And as far as our accessories go, she comes with an alternate arm that has the Iron Man armor on there and a blast effect. Now the head itself, the face actually does look quite a bit like Gwyneth Paltrow, so I think they did a good job with that one, but it's also not the only Gwyneth Paltrow that we have. So we also got a release of her as Rescue. Honestly, I think it's kind of weird because I think the first release actually looks more like her than this second release does. However, what's interesting is that the first appearance of Pepper Potts actually has her hair more like this rather than her hair like this. If you really wanted to, you could swap the hair. I have a whole video where I did that for Black Widow, but otherwise that's what you get. Now our 3-pack Pepper is about $40 on eBay. However, you can actually still get her as part of the 3-pack for about $60. Now if you're going for our Rescue Pepper, this one is about $15 to $20. However, she was also part of a 2-pack, which you can still get for about $30. Then we get our first cameo by Stan Lee. This time, he is supposed to be kind of a Hugh Hefner character as he is wearing a Hugh Hefner-esque robe. So this is the only official Marvel Legends Stan Lee that came out at kind of regular retail. There is a version that came out on San Diego Comic-Con in like 2007 or 2008. That thing doesn't look nearly as good as this one. The only accessories that Stan comes with is a little like chessboard checkers set. This doesn't actually open. And then a Captain America shield with Stan Lee signed on there. So he does not come with a Hugh Hefner robe. Stan can still be found for about $20 to $30 on eBay. Otherwise, he's about retail if you find him elsewhere. And then we have Agent Coulson. So this one was part of a 3-pack with Nick Fury and Maria Hill. As far as accessories, he does come with the Destroyer gun, which I think is the only time that we've actually had this release. So it's a really neat looking, super big gun, and that's cool. And he also comes with this great alternate head with sunglasses. Now, I think they did a fantastic job with the face sculpt. It looks a lot like the actor Clark Gregg. And I think this was actually even before they started using the face scanning stuff. So whoever did this one did a really good job, in my opinion. Coulson you can get for $35+ on eBay. Otherwise, it's about $100 for the 3-pack. And now we're finally at the Mark 1. So the Mark 1 was actually released as part of the previous line of toys before they were officially called Marvel Legends. And I would say that this is actually a pretty darn good likeness to the suit from the film. As far as accessories goes, he is supposed to come with a little missile that shoots out. I bought this secondhand and it didn't come with it, but that's okay. And that's really okay because I have the second release as well. So as I previously mentioned, the Tony Stark civilian figure that we have is actually part of a 2-pack. And this is the other part of that 2-pack. And here's the missile that comes with them. And you can see it fits in the original one as well because they are the same exact mold. You can see quite a few differences with the paint applications. So we have this being painted on the newer one. This is painted down here. We have some other stuff here and here, just kind of all over it. Overall, the newer release looks much better and much closer to what we see on screen. Now, the two of these are about $15 or so on eBay, but like I said, it's really just worth getting this one as part of the 2-pack with the civilian Tony, which again, you should be able to find for less than retail, still available as of this recording. Next up is our Mark II suit, and like the Mark I, this one came out before the official Marvel Legends line. And this one has a couple of accessories, or rather the one accessory since the two pieces go together. So this one clicks into there, and then you hit the button to make it shoot. This just attaches to the arm, and either side would work just fine. Now, this one you can find for about $10 to $20 on eBay. However, we do have a proper Mark II coming soon. At the time of this recording, there's one that's been announced. It's been available for pre-order, and I think some people might be starting to get theirs already, but as of right now, I don't have it. So I would say don't get this one unless you have a very particular collection that you're trying to do where you're just trying to get everything. But if you're trying to do just kind of like the MCU Iron Mans, I would skip this and wait for the other one. If you're trying to get him though, keep in mind that these like shoulder things, they come off really easily. So you'll find quite a few of these that don't have them on because they just pop off just like that. It's really easy to lose. And comparing this to what we see on screen, it looks very different, I would say. I think the idea is right. What we see on screen is all silver because he was continuing to prototype and figure out what makes sense. But we can see a couple different silvers right here, and we've got some yellow or around here and around here. It's not totally accurate, but this is kind of like the official release for the Mark II. So take it for what you will, but I got this before they announced the newer version. Like with the first two releases, this one also came before the Marvel Legends line proper. It's the same exact body mold as our Mark I, because just like in the film, the Mark III really was the same design, and then it's just the paint job that's different. It is also using the same exact accessory as our Mark II. Now, this one you can find on eBay for about 15 to 20 bucks, but I would definitely recommend not doing that and instead getting our newer MCU Iron Man Mark III. So this one came out, I think, a year or 2 years ago now. And this is our newer release that is supposed to be much more accurate, and I would say it is much more accurate. You can see that the design is approximately the same, since they are, of course, based on the same character and the same suit. But you can see such a very stark difference between the two. Now, for our accessories for our newer one, he has fists, and he also comes with repulsor hands. And he also comes with a couple of different parts for the forearm part that pops up to shoot the missiles. So this is one where it's shooting the actual missile, and this one I think is supposed to be like when it was damaged when he's fighting Ironmonger. I forget exactly. And we also get him with the helmet up, and we get to see civilian Tony inside. Now, this one you can still get for about 30 bucks on eBay, and I would highly recommend getting this one because really it's just much better than this release over here. Now, with that said, one of the interesting things that I do want to point out is that our civilian Tony doesn't really scale well with the newer MCU Iron Man. Now, this one actually looks like it matches this one really well because, you know, that's approximately the same height. And in fact, the newer MCU Iron Man scales better with McFarlane than it does with the other Legends. The McFarlane line is of course 7-inch scale, and our Legends line is supposed to be 6-inch scale. So it's not the end of the world that this Tony is quite a bit smaller than this one, but just so you can see, like when I put him shoulder to shoulder, so that matches up right, as you go down, you can see just how much shorter he is. So even at the knee, it doesn't quite match. So if we try to match the knee, then you can see that, you know, his shoulders don't match, and then it wouldn't make sense how he fits inside of this giant suit of armor then. Next up is Ironmonger. Now, Ironmonger actually has, I think 2 or 3 original releases. This came out, I think, around the same time as our Mark 1, 2, and 3, because, you know, the movie was doing really well, so they made a bunch. This one also does this neat thing where you can pop them open like that, and you've got Obadiah in there piloting it. And it is kind of a tiny head. The likeness to Jeff Bridges is not really existent there. I mean, it's definitely just a bald dude with a big beard, but that's really kind of where it ends. And for the sake of comparison, there's the two. This one actually isn't too bad, you know, with the molding and the articulation and the design, and comparing them side by side, kind of, you know, because in the movie Ironmonger is definitely much bigger than our Iron Man. This one actually scales reasonably well. This guy you're going to be able to find on eBay for about 15 bucks or so, but like with our MCU Iron Man, I would say you're much better off getting our newer Ironmonger. So I got to pull out a little bit just because of how big he is, and you can see he is much larger in a significant way. Here's our newer MCU Iron Man next to our new Ironmonger, and here's our original Mark III Iron Man next to the old Ironmonger. So while this height difference wasn't terrible, this one I would say is probably a lot more accurate. And it's really cool because of just how giant it is. Now, unfortunately, this one doesn't have the neat gimmick that this one does, but I'm okay with that because this one is just so much cooler. Our newer Ironmonger also comes with some accessories. So you can see he's got a fist here and an open hand here. And he has his pairing fist and open hand. He also has this missile launcher that attaches, I think it attaches to like one of the rods up here. Then he's got a smoke effect, which I think actually combines with this blast effect, and that can be attached to his Gatling gun right here. And finally, he's got a slew of bullets that are being fired out, and this actually also attaches right here. So that's how that might look. The newer Ironmonger is a gigantic piece, and you can get him for about 35 to 45 by himself. And like I said, you might want to consider getting the 2-pack with the civilian Obadiah Stane if you're gonna get either of them anyway. If you liked this video, then definitely let me know in the comments if you want to see more. The next one would be the Incredible Hulk, which may or may not be possible since we don't really have any Legends figures from that line, but I might still be able to put something together. And otherwise, if you do like buyer's guides, then I've got plenty more to check out right over here.
Who the hell are you? Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
And of course, we have Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. So this Nick Fury, I believe, is actually reusing an old body. And the easy way to tell that is the fact that his hips are ball joints. I really have never liked the look or the use of these hips. I much prefer the newer style of hips, but this is what we got. As far as accessories go, he comes with 2 guns. This one is loose right now because this one is holstered into his holster. And I actually just discovered he actually has another holster, so I can put his other gun there. As far as likeness to Sam Jackson, I think it's actually really good. Again, I think this one is before they started using the face scans. You can even see that he's got the scars on his face that where he's supposed to have them. And I think they did a really good job with that. I think otherwise the body is pretty kind of generic since it's a reuse, because I think a previous version of Red Skull used this. It's not bad, but I think it would have been nice to get a newer one. And it is possible that we will get a newer one because again, we saw that we got the newer Iron Man. We have another Iron Man coming. So we might possibly get an updated version of Fury, and I hope we do because I also don't like these arms. They don't really go down at all, which is kind of a bummer. Otherwise, if you are going to try to get Nick Fury, then you're going to find him for about 35 to 40 bucks on eBay. And otherwise, if you're also trying to get Coulson, then Coulson and Maria Hill in the 3-pack, you'll find for about 100.